and the continued partial government shutdown now in day 34. The Dow, 22 points lower at the close. The Nasdaq up 47. Late earnings from Starbucks better than expected thanks to same-store sales beating estimates. The news was mixed at Intel, though, and shares are way down after hours because of a weak outlook. 25,000 furloughed workers applied for jobless benefits last week, but the number of unemployment still fell to a 49-year low. Apple has let go of 200 workers in its self-driving auto division, but insurance giant Progressive says it wants to hire 10,000 new workers this year. And Under Armour will make space suits and space footwear for Virgin Galactic astronauts and passengers who are expected to blast off later this year. Tom Busby, CNBC.
Indeed knows it's hard to find qualified candidates when you're hiring.
It's like finding a unicorn.
But when you post your job on Indeed, it's easy to find people with the skills you need.
Nurse practitioner, 4+ years experience, acute care certification.
Indeed has a huge pool of amazing candidates and screener tools that help you find your most qualified applicants.
Whoa, an entire short list of unicorns.
Now, get a $50 credit to give your first job posting premium placement at Indeed.com/credit. Terms, conditions, quality standards, and usage limits apply. Additional terms online.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit beefy, or even with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Affordable term life insurance is out there. Call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-481-1458. 800-481-1458 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too.
Nitsa Munoz from the publications Maxim, FHM, and Sports Illustrated. So being a model, I have to work out a lot. It's tough staying in shape, especially keeping my abs. Until I discovered TC1 Gel. TC1 Gel is a thermogenic gel that you rub on your waist 15 minutes before exercising. Then simply put on the TC1 sweat belt and start your workout. You'll sweat like crazy and feel the burn. It focuses on boosting circulation, increasing perspiration. It activates body heat, reduces muscle fatigue, and burns off more calories. Get your TC1 Gel now. Go to tc1gel.com and use the code RADIO30 for 30% off discount on this amazing product. tc1gel.com and get your abs back or just get in shape. Follow their Instagram at tc1gel.
NBC News Radio, I'm Tom Roberts. A Senate panel is issuing a subpoena for President Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, to testify. The Intelligence Committee wants to hear from Cohen in mid-February, and Cohen attorney Lanny Davis says his client will honor the subpoena. Police in Central Florida say the 5 murder victims in the bank shooting in Sebring yesterday were all women. Sebring Police Chief Carl Hogland said today 21-year-old Zephan Zaver entered the SunTrust Bank and immediately made contact with, then shot 4 bank employees and 1 customer.
We have no information right now that there was any bank robbery, and I cannot elaborate anymore because I don't know what his true intent was beyond the acts that have been committed.
The Senate will make an effort to end the partial government shutdown today. Lawmakers will vote on 2 bills, but neither one is expected to move forward. People in the Midwest are preparing for plunging temperatures this weekend due to an Alberta clipper. The weather pattern swooping down from Canada will start tomorrow with light snow from the Midwest to the upper Northeast. Tom Roberts, NBC News Radio.
Looking for a new place to eat? Delicious food at a great value? The Tri-City Center in Redlands is proud to announce the grand opening of a fine new dining establishment. Terry's Diner, at the former location of the Spunky Steer in Redlands, is officially open for business daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. with delicious, mouth-watering breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Treat yourself to Terry's tasty dessert menu, such as Terry's famous sundaes, banana splits, hot fudge cake, old-fashioned root beer floats, frosties, cakes, and pies, too. You'll find weekly lunch and dinner specials, all under $10, including Angus steaks, burgers, Greek salads, pasta seafoods, with wine and beer. Terry's brings years of tasty temptations from DJs in San Bernardino and Alta Loma. Join a new tradition in Redlands. Stop by at 1350 Industrial Park Avenue between Tennessee and Alabama in the Tri-City Center. Google Terry's Diner Redlands on Yelp or find them terrysdinerredlands.com.
Talk 102.3 FM Riverside.
Thank you, America, for making us radio's number one format for 8 years. Talk 102.3 FM, Riverside. KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Here at U-Turn Radio, we believe in big-hearted communities and small government. Join your hosts, Nadia Renner, Tom Murphy, and Eric Steinman, as we work to put local governments on a diet and champion the charities that support your community. So come on, join us and let's turn it around.
Welcome to U-Turn Radio. Happy Thursday. We are back live and direct. Tom is joining us via telephone. Tom, you there?
Glad to be here.
All right, Tom, Eric, and today we have two special guests. We have Doreen. Doreen's usually here, but now she's in front of the mic once again. Welcome, Doreen.
Thank you.
And we have a special guest, Chester Howard. Thank you for being with us today.
Very well.
Today we have a great show, a little different than what we usually do. We usually cover local politics here in the Inland Empire, and which brings us to what we do here, and we believe in big-hearted communities and small governments. But today we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to be talking about child support and how that is set up here, in the system, how it's set up, and talking about big-hearted communities. If you call in 909-792-5222, that's 909-792-5222, we get to spin for charity, and pretty much we spin, and whatever it lands on, it could be from hundreds to thousands of dollars, we donate that money to your favorite charity working here in the Inland Empire. Right, guys?
Yeah. That worked.
How are we going to spin without Tom?
Well, Tom is, like I said, via telephone, but I got the wheel right here. We came prepared today. So
we have no way to verify that.
You say what?
We have no way to verify that.
I'm delegated.
I mean, if you want me to spin, I'll spin, but
do you
there's
have
no
the spinner
callers.
on your phone?
I do.
Okay, you're the new spinner.
So I will spin for that money, baby.
All right.
Let's jump into what we got going on today. How can I live after I pay child support? Today we dive into how the system is set up for parents that have to pay child support. I don't have kids, but I did do a lot of research on this stuff, and it's really interesting how the system is set up for people that have to pay child support. And that's where we bring in our guest today, Chester. Before we get into why Chester, I'll let you talk about Chester a little bit, Eric, because you know Chester better than me.
Yeah, and Chester and I have worked together on and off over the last 20 or 30 years. In fact, we started when I had a big project to staff in Colorado, and I kept flying in and out of Ontario Airport to go over to Colorado and work. And the people we were working for over there kept saying, "We need more manpower. Can you get more people to work?" And I was getting in at 2 o'clock at night and renting a car at Thrifty Rent-A-Car in Ontario. And Chester was manning the counter at Thrifty Rent-A-Car with someone else. And I said, if they want manpower that bad, I just started asking the guys at Thrifty, if you want to come out and work for me, I'll pay you more than
So you pretty much went asking anybody because you needed more manpower.
Yeah, and so Chester and a couple other guys, Chris was one of them, came out and worked with us. And, we've worked on and off ever since then. But they did ban me from renting cars at Thrifty Rent-A-Car.
I bet. Took all their employees.
Their person.
I was poaching their employees. So I got blackballed out of that. But I know Chester for a number of years, and I know him to be he's just a nice person, and he's nice to be around, and he can work, and I've seen him in his family situation, and he does care about his kids. He has certainly a different situation in that regard than me or most of us, but he's been part of their lives and helped them provide for their education and stuff over the time in difficult situations. And I've also been on the employer side of that, where there's the issues that keep coming up over the Chester can't get his whole paycheck because people are looking to take that money in terms of garnishments and whatnot, and I know that that's created situations in our working relationship where Chester just couldn't continue doing his job because, after they catch up and start taking all the money, then it's financially incapable for him to, stay working where he's knows everyone, likes everyone, does a good job, and there has to be a change in that regard, which I don't think, just on that level, it doesn't really suit, the big picture of things to be forcing people out of their situations, where they're at a level that taking half their checks puts them in a situation they can't really get by. So I know those are situations. I know other people get in a situation where it actually forces people into doing whatever they can to get cash, and oftentimes that'll land them in, have them be incarcerated, where our society then has to pay. The latest statistics on that are $83,000 a year. And so not only are we not getting any money for child support, we're creating a liability of $83,000 a year by some of these policies. So I asked Chester to come, and we talked about this, thinking that just having an open conversation, which we can do, I think, with Chester as well as anyone, might shed some light on whether the policies we have in place right now are wise or not.
And I also want to invite anybody that has gone through something like this and has to pay child support. You can definitely call in and let us know from your point of view at 909-792-5222. So Chester, I'm going to go in and talk about what I've learned from like how the child support thing happens, and by all means correct me if I'm wrong, because this is just the information that I got. But pretty much when it comes to child support, from my understanding and from the research that I've done, it depends on who the child is living with, that kind of takes play, and also who spends the most time, and then also like the monthly income that comes from both parents. So pretty much that's how it's kind of more or less determined how much that child's going to get.
Right. That's the way I understood it in the beginning, but it didn't level out that way. One child was getting like $700, and the other two was barely getting anything, and I didn't know how they felt like they needed to divide the money up that way. But I had to make sure everybody was whole, so it didn't matter if they took the money. It had to come from somewhere. So that just left me scrambling for. I had to work 2 and 3 jobs at a time. So I got through it, but they really made it rough. They didn't come looking for me. I went to them. I volunteered and told them, look, I have a child. I want to pay child support. I thought they would work with me. They told me they would work with me, but in the end, they wound up they would just take the money, and they didn't care if I was able to make it to work the next week or not. And a lot of times, often, I wasn't able to, so I was forced to quit.
Well, before we get to that part, let's talk about how old were you when you had your first child?
I was 27 years old, so I had already got a chance to do the nightlife thing, so I was glad to be a proud father. So my first one was at 27, and I have 5 in all, with a questionable 6. She wound up not being my daughter, but they're taking the most child support for her, so I'm still fighting that one.
Okay, let's go back to the first one. So you have the first one, and you were with the mother, or you weren't with your...
I wasn't with the mother, and when I tried to pay child support, she denied me as being the father because she was just angry.
Oh.
She realized in the end she hurt herself and, my son, that wasn't good for neither one of them. Of course, I still took care of him outside of giving child support, but I just feel robbed because they're taking my money and giving it to a kid that's not mine instead of it going to the ones that are really mine. And when they take all my money, I have nothing to fight with. So
right.
But I mean, at 27 years old, that might be the way you've handled it better than other people. Because you've had some experience, had some jobs,
right.
Had a bank account, that type of stuff. What's your thoughts on people that are fathering a child at 17, 18, something like that?
Ooh.
How are they gonna really get by if the policy is immediately when they're trying to get started in life to start taking half their paycheck, all their money that's in a bank, which is my understanding of what happens?
It'll be really rough for them because it forces them to move around from job to job. If you take everything a person.
How long does it take for them to catch up with you? About 6 months?
No, it only takes them like a month now. It used to take them about 6 months, but now it only takes them about a month. Sometimes, I know one time I worked for you, I was only working there a month and they had already caught up with me. So,
yeah.
And I don't have a problem with it. It's just that when they take most of the money and leave nothing for me to make it back to work, what are they really asking for? I'm trying to work with them. I'm trying to do the right thing, but they make it near impossible. You got to have funds. You got to be able. You got to keep your hygiene up. You got to be able to keep a roof over your head. They were taking money that wasn't even mine. My boss would allow me a per diem to pay for my hotel expenses, and they took that too.
Oh, wow.
So I was shut down, and I'm in the middle of Texas. Now I got to figure out a way to get home with no money. So
now, when they catch up to you, you said it takes about a month. So what do they do? Like, they contact you and they say, hey, like, your next paycheck, this amount is like, how does that work?
The money gets taken first, and then you get a letter saying, hey, by the way, we took your money.
So it's almost like a surprise, like you're doing your thing,
You've
working.
committed to bills and whatnot.
Right.
All of a sudden, you don't have the money to pay for them.
Right.
Because it's already taken out. Like, they take it out before they even tell you anything. So now I can only imagine for somebody that, like you said, that is way younger, to try to survive when they don't even have like a warning, like they're just taking their money.
Right.
And not just that, but depending on the case, also that kid has to like eat and stuff like that.
Exactly.
So how do you balance that out as a parent and also saying like, well, I can't survive. How am I going to keep paying child support?
It's hard. I just had to. I would just get odd jobs, stuff that people might just need a hole dig or something like that. I'll take it and get paid, cash or whatever I can do to get by. And I just had a rough time doing it that way, but that was the only way I could do it because, like I say, you can't come home to some hungry kids empty-handed. So I did the best I could, just doing odd jobs.
I mean, it's challenging to find jobs so that pay you cash.
Yeah, if you need, so obviously a cash job is much preferred in that situation where if you get a check, they're going to take half of it. What is it, half of it? 60?
They would take half. And then the taxes and the insurance would come out of my half. And that left me peanuts. So,
not enough to live on in a lot of those situations. So, but if you work for even less, but you're getting cash, then you're in a much better situation. And there's a whole economy built around people that are in this situation that need to get cash.
Right.
And those people don't contribute through taxes to all the stuff that taxes go for one thing.
Right.
And amongst the cash jobs that are out there, there's a good portion of them that aren't legal. So
right.
There you go with driving a lot of the incarceration rates and stuff like that.
But even trying to find a cash job, that's first of all, finding a job alone is hard.
Yeah.
Like,
there's cash jobs. We're talking cash jobs for men.
Right. Yeah.
Well, but just in general, like just the job alone, the process of finding a job. Let's not even talk about like the cash part, but just finding a job.
Mow lawns. You can sell drugs. Those are the first two.
I mean, come on. But how much money are you going to make mowing like the lawn and whose lawn? And like you have to find customers.
So you're quickly in your mind moving to the other alternatives.
Right. You don't get much, but anything is better than nothing. So you take what you can and keep it moving. That's all you can do. it's survival, and the struggle is real. So I understand how people, they try it, and then once they get caught up and they see that it's not working, I see why they try to do work under the table, whatever, because it's survival. You got to survive.
Yeah, and I can't. And I had pretty good training. I always got by in school pretty good. I can't envision when I started out. It was so tough to pay my bills and whatnot. If someone was taking half my paycheck, I would not be capable. I would have to go to the dark side. Right. Find something to do.
Yeah.
So, question: you have more than one child. I think you said five.
Five.
And a possible 6.
Yes.
Do you have child support coming out for all of them currently, or just?
No, the first one, my oldest son was. I was denied. She said I wasn't the father, so I says, okay, well, we'll close the books. I got this stack of papers here. He comes to me and wonder why I didn't fight for him. I can show him that I did. That was his mom's doing.
Right.
And she hates she done that today, of course. We still talk, and she's like, that was the stupidest thing she could have ever done. But she was just thinking selfishly. We weren't together, and she...
It does happen.
Yeah, used the kid, to win me over. But in the long run, I just want them to know that I care. I'm in their life. I'm doing the best I can, and I don't want the same thing to happen for them. So I try to set example and be there.
The end of it, we were talking about that coming over here, is now Chester is at the age where he can get Social Security. And, it might have been to his benefit to wait to get Social Security and work a little while longer. He might have been able to do the stuff that he knows how to do very well and benefit society by working. But Social Security is a check that he can get. There's no, they're not taking child support. His kids are growing up. That's passed. There's probably still some question of back child support. But, he is... in a situation where he doesn't have to worry about that at this point.
They can't squeeze blood out of a turnip.
Yeah.
If it's not there, it's not there.
Right.
I'm living below poverty right now, so the money's not there to be taken. I'm doing better now than I was when I was working. It's a shame.
I mean, you have to get to 60 years old before you're not being followed around with that. The other thing I'll point out is, like, at 27 years old, Chester was in a position to make intelligent choices and not end up, doing something foolish that would get him in trouble with the law or something like that.
Never.
But I don't think that's necessarily, and he's made it by the whole time, and that's that. But I think that's not the situation of people that really haven't formed their own thoughts, that are young and 17, 18-year-old kids and whatnot. They don't have the ability to make the best choices at that point in time, and they're being forced through this, system. Call it deadbeat dads or whatever you want. Let's go get the child support.
Right.
They're being forced into, where can I get the cash? That's going to be what's right in their mind most often. And let's talk about where that materializes. That you can see about this whole economy that revolves around it. If you go into certain parts of any city, as I did and we did when we were building out these wireless systems, you get into the places where on every street corner there's a payday loan, there's a title loan, there's a pawn shop,
right?
Cash America, that type of thing, and those are. The only value add that those businesses have to society is, I don't think they have any value add, but they're basically letting people cash their check outside of the normal system and avoid, the reason for their existence, in my opinion, is generally to avoid these garnishment situations.
Right.
So but in return, they're charging exorbitant interest to people who are low income and whatnot. But
they're
for
gouging.
those people, it's a lot better deal than going through a normal thing, cashing your check regularly, trying to put the money in the bank and losing half of it and everything that's in the bank.
So I did some research and I called a few places here in the Inland Empire, different places, and pretty much what they told me, it's depending on how much the check is, that's how much money they'll take. These second party places where you can go cash your check, and it's from 2 to 3%. But also what I didn't know is that it depends where the check comes from, that they'll even take more. So like a personal check compared to a corporate check. Depending on all those things, that's how much they're taking. So technically, you can't even rely on a full check that you've worked.
Right.
You worked for. You might get maybe like a little more than half, if not half or less, depending. Again. And it was very interesting because everybody was very like skeptical.
Yeah, no, they're not going to easily give you the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's their business.
Exactly.
Is to tell you it's just 3%, but then there's all these other things that
Hidden
when
fees.
you go to get the money, well, we're going to hold this back until the check clears, and then when you go back to get that money,
it's gone.
It's a
There's
whole
an
different
interest.
situation. They get another check, and by then you got another check you want to try and cash, and it goes on like that. So anyone who's really done a study of that says that, what the numbers I've seen is basically they're taking about a third of the cash flow of that off for themselves and those businesses. And I believe that to be true because I know how much it costs to operate the type of stores that they operate in the areas they operate in, because we were building cell phone stores very similar right next to them. And I know how much it costs to operate those stores. And I've seen how much their door swings, and I can kind of do the math in my head. And I was always astonished that we were providing a really good product, good cell phone service, $29 unlimited back when, the major carriers were like $200-300. And, there'd be 6-7 times as many stores for these people ripping people off than for us than we could afford to build for our business.
Right.
Well, then I started looking into it too, and I guess it's the way that it's just set up too, though, but where there's more lower income people, that's where they have most of these locations as well.
For sure.
Which I found very interesting. It's like, man, you're almost like setting me up for this. Like, there's no other way. So it almost seems like when you think it's like, oh, it's helpful, it's beneficial, there's one here by my house, it's really like, no, it's not. You're being set up for something that is not going to set you up for success. It's setting you up for something that they're still going to take away from you.
Right.
So after the research that I've done, I don't think that it's the best way that it's been set up for people that have to pay child support, especially when you have more than one child.
Right.
Because then the mother's pay also comes into like the situation. So then it almost seems, as a kid, if I had parents and they were fighting over this, first I would think it would be very unfair. And then if one of my sisters getting more than I am, that would definitely make me feel a certain type of way.
Right. And they notice that,
Right.
They're not completely in the closet about it. They ask questions. They want to know, well, you go to work every day. How come, we can't afford to go to Disneyland?
Right.
Well, because this money went this way, and they took this money that way, and we had to eat. So there's nothing left over. And, they figure it out. They know that, well, he must be doing the best he can. He gets up and goes to work every day. We don't know where the rest of the money's going, but he's not spending it. He's not buying anything.
Right.
So it's just something they need to relook at their policies and the way they have things set up for child support. If they
Chester ended up with a good relationship with his kids, but I don't imagine that's always the case in these things. Again, Chester's a little bit of the exception. He's willing to talk to us about some of this stuff, but it's not a good thing. All this idea that you're going to collect child support and be able to help out in that situation, all the data is sitting there to say that's completely not effective, that it's costing way more than anything you're collecting, I'm sure, if you take into consideration some of the real costs. And you're not achieving, your policies are driving families apart. You're rewarding people for being a single parent family in a lot of these situations. And so all the incentives, it's just bad policy, but it is the policy that's there, and everybody doesn't seem to want to be able to talk about it or discuss doing anything different. And that's what they should be doing.
No,
especially, let's say, younger people that are getting, if you're getting a check that's only minimum wage type check, everyone should understand you can't live on that. So if you're going to do a garnishment, why would you take half of that check, and it's the same half check you're going to take from, somebody who's well-established job making a whole lot of money?
That's a good point.
This person with a well-established job is going to pay that, and it's not going to impact them. You're going to get the money. You're not going to drive anyone into prison, anything like that. You take that 17, 18-year-old kid who's trying to start out with the job and take that much of his check. You're driving him out of the economy into dealing with cash jobs, dealing with these pawn shops and stuff like that, and you're not getting any money contribution from a tax standpoint. Nothing is going to the kids, and you're driving a lot of people into incarceration. So why not do a policy that says, until you get X number of years old, until you make a certain amount of money, we might take 5% or 10% or something like that, just so you know you got an obligation or something. But we're not going to take half your check and drive you into these poor decisions.
Right.
And your competition's out there. I mean, your competition's the pawn shop. If they're taking 10% out, the way it's going to come down to it on a decision basis is that's the most amount that you're going to be able to garnish from that person's wages and have any success doing it.
All right.
So don't try and ignore it and say, no, we're going to take 50% and we're going to get that. You're not going to get it.
Well, in fact, I know guys that gave up and said, well, they can just come and lock me up because I'm not going to keep working for nothing, So, and I understood, and some of them would go to jail, but what good does that do? Now you're paying for the person that's in jail. So it's they need to relook at the policies. And
that's where I thought we'd have a show about this.
Right. We're gonna go into a commercial break, and then when we come back, I want to ask you, Chester, what's something that maybe the system can take into consideration after your experience? But you can answer that when we come back from our commercial break. You're listening to U-Turn Radio.
We'll be right back to U-Turn after this commercial break. Don't go away.
I like your jingle.
The Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley, protecting animals for more than 4 decades. The Humane Society's mission is to prevent cruelty and neglect to animals and to provide for the health and well-being of animals with an emphasis on spay or neuter programs to prevent pet overpopulation. Visit the Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley for your pet's medical needs, 909-386-1400, or visit hssbv.org. The Humane Society of San Bernardino Valley, a leading nonprofit organization in caring for all animals in need.
Music changing lives, making dreams come true. If we can focus on it, so can you. Fly higher than the sky, leave your mark on the moon. Nothing is impossible, let the music guide you. We are Music Changing Lives.
How would you feel if you had to make a choice between buying food or spending your fixed income on life-saving medicine? No one should make that trade-off, but many low-income seniors are forced into difficult decisions like this every day. Smiles for Seniors Foundation provides energy assistance and safety net services to struggling low-income seniors in the Inland Empire. They provide one-time assistance to seniors to meet specific financial needs. They've helped with food, housing, utility payments, minor home and auto repairs, along with life-saving prescriptions or medical equipment. A nonprofit foundation funded entirely by donations from local organizations. Smiles for Seniors receives no funding from the state or federal government. They are funded by local businesses and individuals like you with big hearts and willing wallets. You can find more information or to donate to Smile for Seniors at 909-790-6671. That's 909-790-6671, or visit smilesforseniorsfoundation.org. That's smilesforseniorsfoundation.org.
Tom, Nadia, and Eric are back with more only on the U-Turn radio show right here on KCAA.
Well, if you want, I'll just say something about what I know about that, because it's not at all. Okay.
We welcome back to U-Turn Radio. That's what you call live radio. Today we have, if you just tuned in, we are talking about how the system's set up for child support. And right before our commercial break, I asked our guest, Chester Howard, how is the system set up, or what would you let them know that they should look into to help not single parents, but people that are paying child support about, hey, take this into consideration, because it's hard to live and also pay child support, just from your personal experiences?
Well, if maybe if they, how could I put it? If they they just need to divide the money up a little bit better, you know, and realize the person has to be able to get from 1 week to the next week, you know, to the next paycheck without taking all their money. I know half is just too much. If I don't care how much you make, if they take in half, that's just too much, because when they take the half, then the taxes and the insurance come out of your half. So you're not even getting, you might get a quarter of what you're making. And that's not good at all. I'm not a wealthy man at all. I don't make a lot of money. I don't have a degree or anything like that that I can count on. It's strictly experience. So I have to sell myself to people that'll hire me, you know, for what I'm worth. And I've been fortunate enough to get by that way, but I see a lot of people struggling, and, you know, I don't know how they do it, but child support makes it rough. And I just thought that it was just kind of ironic that I went to them. They didn't have to come and seek me out.
Right.
You know, I went to them and spoke up and said, hey, I want to pay and do the right thing. And it just seemed like at that point, you know, they didn't care anything about my life or my kids, because you're taking, they would give one child $700 and then split $400 between two other children, and I couldn't understand that at all.
That was just the way that they did it.
That's
maybe it's the first to file gets this, and then the rest, you know, and that's kind of how they're.
It was two separate counties. So one was in Sacramento County. They was taking $700, and then San Bernardino County was only taking $400 for two kids. And I just couldn't figure, how did they figure that out? The two kids should have gotten the $700, and you know, the one kid, you know, a little lesser. It's one kid. So
yeah, from the research that I did, it also depends on like the state. It depends on the county. Like all those things also are into, like they take that into consideration as far as like how much you're going to take away. But it goes back to the point that I did, because I have 4 sisters. So I would definitely, I think that would really disturb my relationship with my sisters when, and depending on who's struggling the most at the time, you know, because sometimes one can be doing better than the other one. And it's not like you can say, hey, I'm gonna give you more this month because you're struggling more than the other one, because, you know, so I think that part was very disturbing, because I'm like, man, I would really have a really tough relationship if that was the case, you know? Because even like in a regular family, I know, you know, growing up with my sisters and my parents, everybody goes through a tough time, and especially when you're done with school after high school and you're trying to figure out as a young adult, like, what am I going to do with my life? And I know for most part, if I didn't have my parents, I don't know what I would be doing. I have no idea. But to that point, sometimes, you know, even my sisters have been able to help me out, or vice versa. But when you're in these type of situations and you have to pay child support, I think you're separating more than helping at some point when you have more than one sibling.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the other side of that too, Nadia, and that's the support that's provided from the government for single-parent families.
Right. True.
And the starting point of it normally is single-parent families, and those are and that's become, in my experience, because I travel around a lot and all over the country. And Chester has with me. You know, we go around like a traveling show, building out these wireless systems. And there's areas where that's kind of a career choice. You know, you can be a single parent and raise a child, and you can get a lot of support for doing that. But the problem is, I think the support, and I'm not sure of this, it's just my suspicion, is based on being a single parent. So the incentives are there to be a single parent, and the incentive should be there to be, you know, not a single parent. So if I think things should be looked at, like if the father is in the kid's life, if he's spending a certain amount of time with them, then maybe this garnishment is cut down or something like that. Pretty simple thing to do. should help a lot of those situations. Maybe people have looked at that and determined different, but that type of thing I think needs to be looked at as well. And there's and I know it's kind of, if you look at the statistics, which I've seen, that when the initial program regarding this started, and here's the things that I'm aware of that they provide for support for a single parent. You're going to get something, some support for monthly, whether that comes in the form of a credit card or checks or something like that. You're going to get some support there. You're going to get Section 8 housing support to help you with your rent. You're going to get a free cell phone, which we're aware, which they never told us about when they did it. And we were providing really low-cost cell phones to everybody without any assistance. You're going to get, probably some other assistance in getting an education and whatnot. If I don't think that matters a bit whether there's nothing that would enhance that, make it more beneficial if you're working with the child's parent or not. And so, you have to look at the assistance that's being provided and what incentives that creates as well.
Well, there is, and there's a lot actually. Like there's the low-income home energy assistance. SNAP is also the ones that if you're going through like the feeding, if you need food, there's a TANF, which is temporary assistance for needy families. There's the Head Start, which is also funded for child care programs, 0 to 5. When you first have the kid. So there's a bunch of different ones, but after doing this research, there's really, again, I go back to, there's nothing set up to help that person succeed either. Like, let's just say if I was the single mother and I have to provide and I'm getting child support, and sure, I'm getting government assistance, there's not.
They got to get that, and they got to go get a job too to make it, and that's why everybody talks about what my mom did to get me by and everything. But the other model that is proven to work is two parents, sharing the cost, and that's the model that should have the benefits for society of two people involved in children's life. They care about them, and no cost. Basically they're handling the bills because they're sharing them. And that's the other thing that I can say from my own experience is, if you're trying to do a family and without some sharing of the load between it, that's a huge task in itself. You're not going to do that great a job on raising a family in that type of financial situation, or the odds aren't for you to do that either. So
it's always
really
better.
The incentives should be put towards, forcing people to be together and be more involved with the kids and share the work. So if one parent could be watching the kids while the other one's working, and that type of stuff. So that's my own, that's a thought thing on it. But I don't believe I think that it's verifiable the incentives aren't there for that right now.
Right, and that's how I've always done it. My kids have some pretty good moms that take care of them, with the exception of the first one that was being selfish, which she's come around now. It's always better when you got both parents, and like I say, the money is important, but being in their lives is more important than any money can ever bring them.
Yeah, I wouldn't say always. I mean, there's a lot of single kids from single-parent homes that are outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
one of them.
I agree with you. Not everybody.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, so I grew up without my father in the house, and I don't know much about child support because my mom never requested child support from him. But I do know about SNAP, and I do know about WIC, and I do know about Section 8, and just what you're calling incentives for single parents and like single mothers. And I guess I'm very leery of calling it incentives, just because I think when you paint it in that particular direction and you you call it like such a benefit when it's really just a means for survival, then you negate the fact that it's really hard to get some of those things.
Yeah, no, I understand that, and I understand there's a lot, and I didn't mean to do that. What I meant to say was, if the father was involved, they would probably be taking his income into consideration and reducing those amounts, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think that she like meant to, like discount, I guess, some of the supportive measures that are out there, but I do think that it's something important to note that, like, even though there are things that support single mothers, like, you can't make a career of that. You know what I mean?
So what did your mom have to do? She had to work as well, or?
Well, thank God my mom had her mom.
Okay.
So I actually live with my mother, my grandmother, and my little brother. And so I think that, for a time when my mom had my brother, she tried to get out on her own through like Section 8 and through WIC and SNAP and all of that kind of stuff. But it was actually just really hard for her to survive. And so when she fell ill, because my mom had a stroke when she was 40, she actually ended up having to come and like move back into the house with my grandmother and myself. I never moved. So yeah, I mean, it's incentivized, I guess, but they also make women jump through hoops just to get some of those, assistance. You have to call in every week and like search for a job. Yeah, I think you have to apply for like 30 jobs or something crazy like that. Just just to qualify for unemployment or anything like that. I know that they keep a close eye on you as far as like SNAP and WIC is concerned. And like 1 month we would get $400 for groceries, and then depending on how my mom worked that week, the next month we would only get like $50 for groceries.
Yeah, that's the incentives that I'm talking about. Is the incentive should be to work, because eventually that allows you to be more self-sufficient. But if you work, they're going to cut your other stuff. The same thing we heard with the homeless shelters when we had them on, that they do a good job and get the homeless people off the street, then their budget gets cut.
Yeah.
So.
Which is crazy, because even like when you're trying to make that like work more to get more money, you're still trying to like get back on your feet. You're not cleared because you made a little bit more.
All that you've done on work is not doing you any good, and that's that's the wrong, and that's why I said in terms of incentive, that's what I'm saying. The incentives typically aren't considered on this. And, so that's, people have to live, and, that's not going to change. And, one way or another, they're going to find a way to do it. And I think the policies need to be done in a way that, you're going to get the best result at the least amount of hassle to anybody. And just putting barriers out and calling people, deadbeat dads, and then going after them for this, and that's putting really labels on people, and then putting all those things like you have to apply for 30 jobs just to show that we're putting them through. Maybe there's some politician said, well, we're going to have something and put everybody to work or something, and so they go and put a policy like that in. All those things, you end up getting them in place, and then nobody talks about, are they effective? Is this working? Should we be changing this and whatnot? So I think the whole system that I've seen on this that ends up resulting in a whole underground economy and a lot of people being forced out of even being able to live in that economy needs serious thought, discussion, and be able to talk about it openly and say, this ain't working, we have to try something different.
Yeah. I also think there aren't a lot of, there isn't a lot of support for men and women who are separated trying to, raise kids. So it's like you can get money if you're a single parent and the father isn't there, but the father doesn't get anything. He gets, gouged, like you were describing. And married people can get some sort of incentives like tax breaks and things like that, having children. But if you're separated and you're both trying to raise the kid and you're both trying to do the right thing, it seems like there's not a lot in place to really help you out.
I know that tax part pretty well. It used to be what I did. So they got a head of household designation, and one person gets it and one doesn't. There's not a sharing of that or anything like that. There's nothing. If you want to say, let's make this equal, then let's give half that designation, the tax benefit from it, to each party if they're truly sharing and raising the kid. That doesn't happen.
Right.
One of them has to take it, the other one doesn't get it.
That's
Let's
actually
put the
pretty
Social
bogus.
Security number down, and only one gets it.
Right.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So-
I don't think I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the best tax benefits are designed to be over a married, living together family type.
Super
thing.
heteronormative and like marriage bound. Yeah, I mean, so my mom, there's also a stigma, right? We've kind of talked about the deadbeat dad theory. And, you know, when we first started talking about having this show, I think Eric said that you had 8 kids by 8 different women.
He always exaggerates.
He did say that. He said 8 kids by 8 different women. And of course, like, the first thing you think is like, does he know all of his children? Like, how involved,
Every
you know,
last
in
one of
their
them.
lives, you know? And I think it's important to note that there are fathers out there who are trying, you know,
Right.
who want to be helpful, who want to be parents.
Right.
And I think it's really interesting that you literally went to the child support,
Right.
you know, office
Yeah.
to talk to somebody. Also, why didn't you just talk to the moms? Like, is there a reason why you didn't?
That's what I did. Is I tried it with them first. You know,
Mhm.
I says, you know, there's no reason for us to have any mediator
Yeah.
between us. So I was like, I'll give you X amount or whatever. But what I noticed is one of my kid's mom put the phone to my ear when she was talking to the child support people. They were calling her, coasting her, because her oldest son was on child support, but my kids wasn't, because I was working. There was no reason why they needed to be
Right.
on child
Yeah.
support. Well, what they did
So you were
was
giving some money before they even asked for it.
right.
Yeah.
So what they did was they told her, look, if you put the rest of the kids on, you get X amount of money, you know, and they coached her to sign up for it.
Yeah.
Which she wished she hadn't after she done it, because you know, when if I didn't work, then she don't get anything.
Right.
Right.
So let's talk about that. So after the first one, and you're getting this garnishment anyway, then that doesn't, as far as incentives go, you know, if you do have additional kids, it doesn't hurt you that much more, right?
Yeah, it does, because although
Well,
if I have another
700 on the first one, and then the next 2 were 400
was-
total, right?
Right, but if I had any more kids, that's not going to go away. There's still a set amount that
They only can take half your check, right?
Right.
That's the thing. So you get to that point, and then the incentive is not there to.
Well, here's the thing, though. Here's the catch to that. They're taking half my check. They're saying I'm 100 and some thousand in debt with them.
Yeah.
So what they're taking is not even taking care of the interest, and it's still going up. So now I'm to the point where I'm retired. You know, I'm too old to work. You know, I got shut down medically, and now they're not going to get anything, and they can't really take anything from me because I don't have anything. So they pretty much kind of cheat themselves that way. If they would have just, it's better if they could just, if they come up with a payment arrangement. But they says, nope, we don't do that. You tell us where you work, and we take it. You can't make payments.
That's crazy. So when you stop paying child support once if they turn 18, right? From my understanding.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
So from the research I did, it says that you stop paying once the child turns 18.
Right.
But it goes back to the point that you just said. So the kid turned 18, but you still owe the government money,
right.
which is what they don't explain, because people are like, oh, well, you know, it's only 18 years. But it's not 18 years. It's like a school.
So where does that money go
you
after
got to
they
wait
turn
until you're
18?
able to get Social Security to finally maybe have an income that's yours, that you're immune from that. And it doesn't. If you went back to work now, they'd still garnish, right?
They would still garnish.
Yeah.
Because technically he still owns the government. So it's pretty much like my kids are already 18, grown, full adults. But now I'm getting older, working probably a little less, you know, trying to take care of my health and stuff. But I still owe the government
So they
tons
still
of money.
take that.
So they still take that
And so
money.
where does the money go? Like, who gets it? Does the child get it still? Like,
No,
am
the
I
government.
19
No,
and I
the-
still get
No,
it?
the
The
government
government
it's going
gets
to them, yeah.
Oh, that is horrible.
The kid is cut off at 18.
Yeah.
Then they
And
still
so now
get
we're just paying the government because I owe, but then it doesn't help a child, and it doesn't help the mother, and it doesn't.
And you can, you can owe your credit card company or this or that, and at worst case, after 7 years, you don't owe it anymore. But this stuff
Right.
doesn't go away.
Wow.
No, what'll happen?
And that and student loans.
Right.
Right.
So what would happen, say, they can't take anything from me now, but if I was to hit the lottery, they're going to get theirs off the top.
I wouldn't even play the lottery. I'm just kidding.
It's a bad gamble.
I wouldn't even go to Vegas. Yeah, so that's the way that's set up. So I mean, it's almost, and it's not helpful at all, because when you're older, I mean, you can't really work as much. You can't look for side jobs anymore.
Nope.
Like,
Yeah.
that's, it's now about your health. You have to take care of your health first.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to get into any thoughts on whether a two-parent family is better than a one-parent family or anything like that. All you have to do is look at all those pawn shops and payday loan stuff and say, that's a whole economy that doesn't work in the system at all. There's no contribution out of those places
Right.
to anything. It's a way to avoid the system where everyone shares in the tax and shares in the responsibilities of society. And it's forced on everybody, and people get these opinions of people that, deadbeat dads, that's a class of people that owe child support. But how much is any stereotype on that driven by the fact that anybody in that situation, because I know I would be, if Dolores and I didn't work our things out when we had our first kid out of wedlock, if we didn't.
How old were you, Eric? How old were you?
I was 24, and I completed some college, and I had had a lot of jobs. And, if anyone could earn a living, I would figure I could. But if we didn't ever work our things out and there was a disagreement and she decided that she was going to go on her own and I was getting forced with having that much taken out of my checks, then I would be, somewhere outside of the system. I wouldn't have accomplished what I have accomplished.
Right.
If I have, in fact, accomplished anything. I
Right.
wouldn't have the opportunities that I've had. So the policies often drive the stereotypes, which drive continuing the policies. And in this case, it's been around long enough. The results are in front of you. Go look and see how huge an underground cash economy that you've created. See the level of single-parent families that's gone 4 or 5-fold since these policies have started, and say, wait a second, and look at the cost of incarceration and all the people that are unproductive and incarcerated right now, and think maybe there's something different that we should try in this regard.
Yeah, I actually know men who have gone to jail for child support reasons, and it's not pretty. Like the relationship is forever severed, right? Or just maybe not severed, but it's strained for sure. And especially if you don't really understand how the policies can really hurt either one of the parents. So if you just sort of grow up knowing that, like, I have a father who, and I don't know, child support doesn't seem like that much, or none at all, or, whatever the case may be. And then, he's in jail and like, I don't know him very much. It really, it makes you think as a child. Like I grew up thinking that I had a father who didn't care about me, that didn't care about my well-being, or, didn't care about my mom's well-being afterward. In actuality, I think when you think about how the policies are set up against people, it makes it difficult to be as angry. With him. There's some other choices that he could have made in separate ways.
Chester
but
has retained a relationship with his daughters throughout the whole,
which I think is beautiful.
Yeah,
that's great.
Well, I'm like this. I just buried my father last year, and they asked me if I wanted to say anything, and I only had a few words, and they were, he may not have meant much to anybody else. I says, but for me, other than Christ himself, he's the greatest man that ever walked this earth, because he stayed in our lives. So I'm sure my children feel the same way. just having that direction. They need somebody to come to. They're going to have questions. They're going to make mistakes. And it's just good to have that parent there to ask them. And I'm sure that's one of the things that you were missing, just some unanswered questions.
Lots.
Yeah.
I think you have a great outlook, though, because I don't think that every kid would have that same understanding that you just shared.
It took some time.
Because there could be like a lot of angry kids. And like you said, most importantly, I really think it comes down to spending time with kids.
It does.
Your children.
And we got it's talking about time. They're giving us the cut signal.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Well, that was U-turn radio. Sorry, guys. I thought I had 1 minute left.
No countdown. I think our countdown's over. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Chester. Thank you, Jen.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.
A Northern California gas station owner is offering free gas to furloughed federal workers. Ray Ollier says his Valero station in